The clink of fine crystal and the soft murmur of high society echoed through the plush dining room of Le Palais Royal, where Lucy Chang, a determined, compassionate server, was about to face the biggest challenge of her career. When Henry Pemberton, one of the city's wealthiest and most influential millionaires, walked in with a haughty air, no one suspected the storm brewing on this seemingly ordinary evening. But Lucy noticed something suspicious, a tip scandal that threatened to shatter the restaurant's reputation and her own future. What she did next would expose secrets hidden behind glittering smiles and unleash a shockwave no one could have predicted. Le Palais Royal was more than just a five-star establishment. It was an institution. Rising regally from one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Boston, its gilded doors promised a world of exclusive cuisine and impeccable service. White-gloved doormen greeted guests stepping out of sleek black town cars, and dazzling chandeliers lit up the foyer with a warmth that belied the tension often simmering beneath the elegant surface. Established by famed restaurateur Michel Davenport, Le Palais Royal was known for blending French gastronomic traditions with modern culinary innovations. Over time, the restaurant had attracted a loyal clientele, foreign dignitaries, business tycoons, movie stars, and famed authors. Even with this illustrious following, they also welcomed everyday people seeking a once-in-a-lifetime dining experience. The staff, each meticulously trained, took pride in providing every customer with the same excellence, whether they were a Hollywood starlet or a local teacher celebrating their anniversary. For Lucy Chang, a 27-year-old waitress from a humble background walking into Le Palais Royal every evening felt like stepping into another universe, a place of fine porcelain plates, swirling magnums of expensive champagne, and chatter about weekend trips to St. Bart's. Lucy had lived most of her life on the outskirts of the city. Every dollar she earned was carefully budgeted. In the day, she juggled classes at the local community college, where she studied hospitality management. At night, she donned her crisp white shirt and black vest, ready to present the refined front demanded by her job. She fought for every tip. It was her lifeline to pay rent-afford textbooks and take care of her younger sister Amanda, who was finishing high school. It was a crisp evening in early fall. Lucy arrived half an hour before her shift, began to help set up the dining area. The manager, Martin Rhodes, a commanding figure known for his strict expectations and impeccable style, was going through the table assignments. Martin was the one who had personally interviewed Lucy for the job 2 years prior. Despite his stern demeanor, Lucy saw glimpses of empathy in him. With each new server who came through the doors, Martin would share his mantra: "At Le Palais Royal, we don't just serve food, we serve experiences." As Lucy often reflected, those experiences could shape or break a person's perspective on humanity. That evening, Martin wore a pinstripe suit and gave Lucy a polite nod as she approached. "You'll be on table 14 tonight," he said. "And watch out, Henry Pemberton is joining us." The name instantly triggered a wave of apprehension among the staff. Henry Pemberton was a regular, a millionaire known for his success in real estate development and for his occasional acts of philanthropy. The same man who had once donated $1 million to a local hospital was also rumored to tear down entire neighborhoods to build luxury condos, driving property prices beyond the reach of everyday families. He was notorious for his unpredictable behavior, especially in restaurants. Sometimes he was overly generous, leaving $1,000 tips that brightened the staff's day. Other nights his temper flared over the slightest mistake, a glass not chilled properly, a garnish out of place, and he'd upend the entire dining room into chaos. Lucy's shoulders tensed at the mention of Henry's name, but she forced a respectful smile. "Thank you, Martin," I'll do my best. When Henry Pemberton strolled in around 7:30, the restaurant was in full swing. Women in designer gowns clinked champagne flutes, with men in tailored suits, while a live harpist plucked gentle melodies in the corner. Henry wore a custom-tailored grey suit, his salt and pepper hair expertly styled. At his side was his latest companion, a young model named Natalia, her dark eyes scanning the room with a look that bordered on disinterest. Lucy stood near the entrance, her posture pristine, heart hammering. She greeted Henry and Natalia with the courtesy demanded by her role, escorting them to table 14, by the window, offering them the best view of the nighttime city lights. Henry settled into his seat, crossing one leg over the other, exuding a chill confidence that dominated the table. Natalia fiddled with her phone, replying to a barrage of messages or scrolling through social media. Lucy couldn't tell which. Lucy handed them the evening's menu. "May I start you off with some still or sparkling water?" she asked politely. Henry barely looked up. Sparkling, with a twist of lime. And Natalia will have the same. When Lucy smiled and turned, Henry's gaze flickered across her name tag. "Lucy, it's Lucy, right?" he said. "I remember you from last time." She nodded, momentarily surprised. "Yes, sir. That's me. Bring us some bread, Lucy, and tell the chef to make sure tonight's special is worth my time." Lucy had served Henry Pemberton maybe 4 times in the last 2 years, each encounter drastically different. But this was the first time he had remembered her name outright. As she went to fetch bread and water, a strange mixture of dread and curiosity churned inside her, hinting that this night would be unusual. In the kitchen, Lucy felt the rush of adrenaline the staff experienced whenever someone as potentially demanding as Henry Pemberton arrived. Carla, a fellow server, grabbed Lucy's arm as she was about to push through the swinging doors. "Henry's in your section," Carla asked, her tone laced with sympathy. Lucy nodded. "Yes, and Martin gave me a heads up. I'll do everything by the book." Carla offered a supportive smile. "If you survive tonight, I'll buy you coffee tomorrow." Lucy laughed lightly, though anxiety pinched her stomach. With a quick breath, she pressed into the dining area, carrying the bread basket and the sparkling water. She placed them in front of Henry and Natalia with practiced grace. Henry took the napkin from the table and placed it on his lap without a word. Natalia's phone lit up again, and she gave a soft sigh. Lucy asked if they were ready to order. Henry flicked open the menu once more, scanning the specials. He then placed the menu down with an expression of mild satisfaction. "We'll start with your lobster bisque," he told Lucy, followed by the Wagyu sirloin, medium rare, with a side of truffle risotto for me. "Natalia will have the same, but make it medium well." Natalia rolled her eyes, but said nothing. Lucy noted the tension between them, an icy distance that somehow seemed deeper than a casual date. She promised to relay the order immediately. Back in the kitchen, Lucy delivered the requested items with the precision expected of her. Meanwhile, she spotted Martin at the far end, eyebrows knit in concentration as he scanned the reservation list. Something about the tension in the room. That evening, Henry's presence, the hush among the staff, prickled Lucy's nerves as Lucy carried out the first course of lobster bisque. Henry turned off the screen of his phone, which had been buzzing non-stop. He cast a disapproving glance at Natalia, who was still immersed in her own device. "Natalia," he said stiffly, "why don't you put that away for a moment and enjoy the soup?" Natalia obliged, but the mood at the table was hardly warm. Lucy retreated, giving them space to converse. She kept busy circling the restaurant, topping off water glasses and checking on her other tables. Between tasks, she couldn't help but glance over at Henry and Natalia. Then something unusual happened. A figure walked past Henry's table. James Patterson, a well-known real estate lawyer in Boston, who had once publicly criticized Henry for his unrelenting expansion practices. James pretended not to see Henry, but Lucy spotted the subtle smirk on Henry's face as their eyes met. There was a story there, an unspoken tension Lucy couldn't quite place. James quickly found his own table, presumably for a meeting with a colleague, but Lucy sensed the friction. Something was brewing. When Lucy returned with the main courses, a flawlessly seared Wagyu sirloin and a steaming side of truffle risotto, Henry didn't even look at her. He was too occupied tapping on his phone, responding to something with abrupt, forceful keystrokes. Natalia silently picked at her meal. "Everything to your satisfaction?" Lucy asked in a gentle tone, forcing a pleasant smile. Henry barely glanced up from his device. He murmured, "It'll do." Natalia's eyes flickered up at Lucy for an instant, then flicked away. A murmur of dissatisfaction rippled through Lucy. She prided herself on excellent service, but Henry's clipped responses and Natalia's disinterest left her unsettled. Nevertheless, Lucy kept her composure, resolving to make the night go as smoothly as possible. The last thing she wanted was a confrontation with one of the most influential men in the city. Later, as Lucy was delivering dessert menus to another table, she overheard a snippet of conversation between Henry and Natalia. It was unintentional, she was just passing by, but Henry's hushed voice carried. "I told you to keep that under wraps," he muttered in a low, intense tone. Natalia hissed something back, but Lucy only caught the words, "tip fiasco" and "bad press." Henry slammed his palm flat on the table, rattling the silverware. Lucy decided it was best to keep moving, even though her curiosity was piqued. The phrase "tip fiasco" echoed in Lucy's mind. She recalled rumors among the staff about a scandal involving Henry Pemberton at another high-end restaurant downtown the Grand Sterling. Rumor had it, Henry had left a massive tip on a dinner bill only to request it back the next day through the restaurant's management, claiming it had been an error. The staff who had celebrated that tip had to return every cent. Lucy had heard that it caused uproar among waiters who relied on that money for their living expenses. Henry never publicly explained the situation, and the restaurant hushed it up to avoid negative publicity. But among hospitality workers, the story spread, whispered from shift to shift, inciting both outrage and resentment. Lucy's blood simmered at the thought of someone toying with servers' livelihoods so callously, but she still had no proof Henry was truly in the wrong. She only had rumors and partial stories. Deciding to push the nagging thought aside for the moment, Lucy focused on her work, determined to maintain professionalism. The evening progressed with the restaurant slowly thinning out. Henry and Natalia finished their entrees, though Lucy noticed Natalia didn't eat much, mostly pushing food around her plate. At one point, Lucy approached the table about to clear their dishes when Henry spoke up in a low, terse voice. "Lucy, isn't it?" he asked, glancing at her name tag again. "Yes, Mr. Pemberton," Lucy replied, forcing a polite yet stiff grin. Henry paused, and Lucy felt the weight of his gaze. "I need to settle a situation quickly. I'll require the check soon. No desserts, no coffee." "Right away, sir," Lucy responded, though the tension in his tone alarmed her. She stepped back to the waiter's station and prepared the check. It was a sizable total as expected, especially considering the Wagyu and the high-end wine Henry had silently ordered from the sommelier. Lucy braced herself for a mediocre tip. Henry had been quiet all night, but that didn't mean he'd be generous, especially if he was in a foul mood. When Lucy delivered the check to the table, Henry gave it one cursory glance. He pulled out a sleek black credit card, handed it to Lucy and said, "Put everything on here." But before Lucy could leave the table, she heard Natalia hiss, "Really? You think that's enough to make this go away?" Henry scowled. An awkward silence hung in the air. Lucy sidled away discreetly to process the payment. At the POS station, Lucy rang up Henry's bill. As she waited for the slip to print, she couldn't help noticing Martin standing close by, quietly observing her. Martin's expression was unusually tense. "You all right, Lucy?" he asked after a long moment. "Dealing with Henry can be stressful." Lucy gave a tight nod. "I'll be fine. Just finishing up the check. I think he's leaving soon." Martin placed a reassuring hand on Lucy's shoulder. "Keep calm. Don't get drawn into his drama." Lucy appreciated Martin's concern. Despite his authoritative manner, Martin had been a fair boss, always ensuring staff got their due and that no one was exploited by difficult customers. Lucy signed the credit slip. She saw Henry's signature scrawled at the bottom. The tip line displayed a figure that made Lucy's eyes widen. $1,000. $1,000. The same amount rumored to have caused an uproar at the Grand Sterling when Henry demanded it back the next day. Lucy's hands trembled as she regarded the slip. Henry had just left a considerable tip on top of an already hefty bill. For a moment, her heart soared this sum would go a long way towards paying her overdue college fees. But the memory of the rumored scandal pulled her back to reality. Was this tip for real? Or would Henry do the same thing and demand it back? Lucy returned to the table, the receipt in hand. Henry rose from his seat, checking his watch. Natalia stood a few steps behind him, arms folded, face drawn in frustration. Lucy mustered a bright, professional smile. "Thank you for dining with us, Mr. Pemberton, Natalia. I hope you had a pleasant evening." Henry met her gaze, a glint of something unreadable in his eyes. "We'll see about that," he said cryptically. Then he turned, offering his arm to Natalia, who didn't take it. The two made their way out of the dining room, followed by the curious glances of other patrons. Lucy blinked, exhaling slowly. Glancing down at the receipt once more, she saw the $1,000 tip. Part of her wanted to be grateful, but her instincts screamed caution. She caught Martin's eye from across the room. He offered a supportive nod. He'd seen the tip figure as well. "I'll close out the table," Lucy murmured to herself, returning to the station. Moments later, as Lucy gathered plates and reset table 14 for the next day, Natalia came rushing back into the dining room alone. She spotted Lucy marched over and handed her a business card. "If he tries anything tomorrow," Natalia said in a hushed tone, "call me." She was gone before Lucy could respond. Lucy stared at the elegant card between her fingers. It held Natalia's name, Natalia Lebedev, along with a phone number and an email. The strangest part wasn't that Natalia had returned, or even that she had given Lucy her contact information. It was the seriousness in Natalia's eyes. A warning, as if Lucy would need it. That night, when the last guests trickled out and the staff gathered to divvy up their final tasks, Carla sidled up to Lucy, eyes brimming with anticipation. "So how'd it go? Did Henry blow up at you?" Lucy showed her the receipt. Carla's eyes went wide at the sight of the $1,000 tip. "Wow," she whispered. "I wonder what that's about." The staff who overheard the conversation seemed torn between envy and concern. Some congratulated Lucy. Others offered anxious glances. "We've heard stories about him rescinding big tips," whispered Marcus, a bartender, who had dealt with Henry's mood swings before. Martin approached, arms folded. "You should go home, Lucy. We'll lock up soon. Don't fret over rumors. The policy here is that once a tip is written, it's the server's right. Henry Pemberton might be powerful, but the corporate attorneys won't easily let him yank money out of the staff's hands." Still, the swirl of talk and speculation wouldn't leave Lucy's mind. She recalled Natalia's cryptic warning, the hush conversation about a tip fiasco. As Lucy walked to her car, the crisp autumn air biting her cheeks, she couldn't shake the sense that tonight was only the beginning of a very complicated story. Early the next morning, Lucy rummaged in her small kitchen at home, making instant coffee. Her younger sister, Amanda, slouched at the table in a faded hoodie, textbooks spread out. "You look exhausted," Amanda noted gently. Lucy tried to smile. "Long night at the restaurant. But I got a huge tip from Henry Pemberton." Amanda let out a low whistle. "That's the real estate mogul, right?" Lucy nodded, sipping her coffee. "Yeah, though I'm not sure if it's actually going to stay in my account." She told Amanda about the rumors and Natalia's bizarre warning. Amanda frowned. "He can't just take it back, can he?" "Legally, probably not so easily. But if you have enough money and connections..." Lucy left the sentence unfinished. She didn't want to worry Amanda with the complexities of high-power politics and intimidation. After dropping Amanda off at school, Lucy headed to her morning class at the community college. As she scrolled through her phone during a break, a news headline caught her eye. "Henry Pemberton settles tip dispute in confidential agreement." Lucy tapped on the link. The article described an incident at the Grand Sterling restaurant. Henry had reportedly left a $2,000 tip, only to claim it was a mistake. The staff filed a complaint. The matter ended in a confidential settlement, the details of which were not disclosed to the public. The piece ended by speculating about Henry's motive. Was it an honest error? Or was he using large tips to manipulate behind the scenes? Lucy's pulse pounded. She clicked off her phone, unsettled. Even if Henry had left $1,000 as a real tip for her last night, who was to say he wouldn't claim it was an error tomorrow or use it as leverage for something else? The recollection of Natalia's urgent expression haunted Lucy. Perhaps she had a reason for her warning. When Lucy arrived at Le Palais Royal for her shift that afternoon, Martin was in the foyer, pacing. The moment he spotted Lucy, he strode over, his face drawn. "We just got a call from Pemberton's office," he said without preamble. "One of his associates claims the $1,000 tip was an unintentional addition and that Henry wants it rescinded." Lucy's stomach lurched. But I have the slip." He wrote the amount and signed. Martin nodded gravely. "I told them exactly that. Legally, he doesn't have grounds to remove a tip after signing the receipt. But this is Henry Pemberton. He insists. They're threatening to tarnish our reputation if we don't comply." Lucy clenched her fists, anger mingling with anxiety. "So, what does that mean for me? Are you going to take my tip away?" Martin sighed. "I've told them we wouldn't, but the owners and corporate might fold under the pressure. He's a regular, a big spender, and has influence in this city. You know how these things can go." Lucy felt tears of rage prickle her eyes. She refused to cry in front of Martin. "This is not unfair. That's my money. He wrote it. He can't just..." She stopped herself, inhaling deeply. "I won't let him do this." Martin's lips pressed into a thin line. "We stand behind you, Lucy, but we have to play this carefully. Let's see how the day unfolds." Lucy had barely clocked in when she felt her phone buzz in her pocket. She saw an unfamiliar number. Against her better judgment, she ducked into the staff break room and answered. "It's Natalia," came the tense voice. "Remember me, Henry's friend?" Lucy's grip on her phone tightened. "Yes." "You left your card," Natalia spoke quickly. "I heard Henry's pulling that nonsense again with the tip. I tried to talk him out of it, but he's stubborn. You need to protect yourself. Don't let him bully you." "Why do you care?" Lucy asked, suspicion creeping in. A pause on the line. "Henry and I have some disagreements. This fiasco is part of a bigger power play. He's dealing with some lawsuits regarding his real estate expansions, and he's paranoid about leaks. He uses tips as a weird intimidation or manipulation tactic on staff. If you fight back, he might back down. But be warned, he can be ruthless." Lucy exhaled shakily. "Thank you for telling me. But what am I supposed to do?" Natalia gave Lucy the contact of a lawyer, Nancy Jenkins, known for defending labor rights in the hospitality industry. "If it comes down to a legal fight call," her Natalia said. "And trust me, if Henry goes too far, he risks more than just your tip. There are skeletons in his closet he can't afford to expose." Before Lucy could ask more, Natalia ended the call. Lucy stood there, phone in hand, her mind racing. Was she ready for a legal battle? Could she stand up to Henry Pemberton's might? The thought made her nauseous, but a spark of determination also flickered. She wasn't alone, and that knowledge was strangely empowering. That evening, Lucy's shift started relatively quietly. The staff tiptoed around the tension. Martin kept an eye on Lucy, in case Henry or one of his associates decided to show up. Meanwhile, Lucy tried to focus on serving her tables with her usual warmth, but she couldn't ignore the swirl of turmoil in her mind. Around 8 p.m., the restaurant doors opened, and in walked James Patterson, the real estate lawyer Lucy had seen the previous night. Tonight he was flanked by a colleague. To Lucy's surprise, James requested a specific table near the back. Lucy didn't usually handle that section, but Martin, sensing something significant, reassigned the table to her. When Lucy approached to take orders, James Patterson looked up. "You're Lucy Chang, right?" he asked. Lucy nodded, taken aback. "Yes, sir." James offered a faint smile. "Word travels fast in certain circles. I've heard about your predicament with Henry Pemberton. If you need legal counsel, I can recommend someone." Lucy's eyebrows rose. "I appreciate your concern, but how did you—" "We all talk," James said, simply swirling his glass of water. "Henry's been a thorn in my side for years. You're not the first person he's toyed with. But if you stand up for yourself, you might surprise him." Lucy's stomach churned with a mixture of nerves and a strange sense of validation. It was disconcerting realizing how quickly her dispute with Henry had traveled. Still, James's words fueled her resolve. She needed to prepare for whatever came next. Just before the dinner rush died down, Lucy was summoned to Martin's office. She found him sitting behind his desk phone on speaker. The tinny voice on the other end belonged to someone from the corporate office of Le Palais Royal. Lucy sensed trouble in the clipped tones. "Martin, we can't afford negative press right now," the corporate representative was saying. "Henry Pemberton is threatening to leak a story about how our staff baits high-profile clients into leaving inflated tips. We know it's absurd, but scandal can do real damage. We might need to return the tip to keep the peace." Martin cleared his throat. "As manager, I stand by my staff. Lucy did nothing wrong. Henry wrote that tip of his own accord." The corporate voice paused. "Be that as it may, we have shareholders, and a large chunk of them rely on a positive relationship with Henry's development ventures. This situation is bigger than Lucy." Lucy felt a flush of anger. Her lips trembled, but she forced herself to stay calm. She said, This is my livelihood. That money was promised to me. Why should the entire blame fall on me or the restaurant's staff? He wrote it down. After a moment of silence, the corporate representative sighed. We'll discuss further tomorrow. For now, hold the funds in limbo. Don't finalize them to Lucy's account. Lucy's frustration was palpable as the call ended. Martin gave her a sympathetic look. I'm sorry. Let's stay strong. We'll deal with it. Lucy nodded, tears of rage brimming in her eyes. Thanks for having my back, she said. But inside she felt the pangs of betrayal. Corporate only cared about their bottom line. If push came to shove, they'd likely side with Henry. Exiting Martin's office, Lucy was thrown back into the dining room chaos. A new rush of guests had arrived. She forced a composed smile as she served them, though her mind was barely present. The $1,000 tip was hanging in limbo, and Henry threatened to drag her name and the entire restaurant through the mud. Near the end of the night, Lucy was clearing plates from James Patterson's table when he quietly handed her a small envelope. Inside is my business card, he said softly. If you need a lawyer outside of corporate's counsel, call me. Sometimes you have to fight these things on your own terms. Lucy swallowed hard. Thank you. She tucked the envelope into her apron. Once the restaurant emptied, Lucy trudged to her car, the crisp night air doing little to soothe her. She flicked on the radio for a distraction, only to hear a news report about a local protest against Henry Pemberton's new development project. The reporter mentioned Henry's questionable business practices. Lucy shut off the radio. The last thing she wanted was to be reminded of the monstrous influence Henry wielded. Tomorrow, she murmured to herself, turning the key in the ignition. I'll figure out what to do tomorrow. The next morning, Lucy woke up early. Instead of heading to school, she decided to meet with Nancy Jenkins, the labor rights lawyer Natalia had recommended. Nervous and unsure of how to proceed, Lucy took the bus across town to a modest office building. Nancy Jenkins turned out to be a sharp-eyed woman in her mid-40s, dressed in a simple navy blazer. Her office was sparse, but organized stacks of case files meticulously arranged. She listened intently as Lucy explained the situation, the tip Henry's attempt to rescind it, the corporate pressure. Nancy nodded. This is more common than people realize. Legally, once a tip is written and signed, it belongs to the employee. But Henry might argue it was an error, or that the restaurant's staff manipulated him. Rich individuals sometimes use intimidation to get their way. Lucy's throat tightened. Is there a chance I could lose Nancy? Regarded her gravely. If corporate decides to throw you under the bus, it's an uphill battle. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't fight. If you want to proceed, I'll represent you. We'd likely start by sending a formal letter to Henry's legal team, demanding they cease any attempt to revoke the tip. Lucy felt both relief and fear. I can't afford big legal fees, she admitted softly. Nancy gave a reassuring smile. We handle labor disputes like this on a contingency basis if needed. But let's start with a letter. Sometimes that alone is enough to make them back off. Before Lucy left, Nancy handed her a crisp folder. Review my notes and let me know what you decide, she said. And remember, it's your right to be paid for your work. When Lucy arrived at Le Palais Royal for her shift, Martin was waiting near the entrance. He quickly ushered her into a secluded corner. We got a call from Henry's personal assistant, he whispered. He's planning to dine here again tonight. Lucy's heart lurched. Is that even surprising anymore? He's obviously not done harassing us. Martin rubbed the bridge of his nose. Corporate is in a frenzy. They're practically begging us to appease him. I don't like it. But I'm warning you, keep your cool. He may try to provoke you. Lucy nodded, swallowing her anxiety. "I'll do my best," she said. But her thoughts churned. She had Nancy Jenkins' card, and she was ready, if necessary, to escalate the situation. Sure enough, at 7:30, Henry Pemberton arrived alone. He walked in with the assured air of someone who owned every space he entered. Tonight he wore a charcoal suit and a thin, dark tie. As Lucy greeted him with forced politeness, Henry's lips curled in a half-smile. "Lucy," he said, emphasizing her name with a tone that sent chills through her. "Table 14. Free." Lucy motioned for him to follow. Once seated, Henry steepled his fingers, observing her intently as she offered him the menu. "No Natalia tonight?" Lucy asked, regretting the question the moment it slipped out. Henry's gaze narrowed. "She's otherwise occupied." He paused, then leaned forward. "You know, Lucy, last night I realized that I might have been too impulsive with my generosity." Lucy's jaw tightened. "I see. I wanted to let you know that I've spoken to the restaurant's upper management." Henry continued. "We've cleared up the misunderstanding. My standard tip would have been quite a bit lower. I trust you understand." Lucy felt her pulse hammer in her ears. This was a power move. Henry was reasserting his dominance. She forced calm into her voice. "I'm sorry, Mr. Pemberton, but that tip was clearly written and signed." Henry's expression darkened. "And if the tip was a mistake, are you so desperate for money that you'd cling to an error?" Lucy's fists clenched at her sides. "I earn my pay legitimately," she said. "I did nothing to manipulate you." He studied her, something threatening in his silence. Then he waved a dismissive hand. "Just bring me the house special and a glass of scotch," he said, shifting his attention to the menu as if she no longer existed. Shaken. Lucy went to the kitchen and relayed Henry's order. She nearly bumped into Martin, who had been standing in the corner, apparently overhearing the exchange from the pass-through window. "Lucy," he said quietly. "Are you okay?" Lucy took a steadying breath. "He's trying to intimidate me. He basically told me I'm not getting that tip." Martin glanced back toward the dining area. "I think we might have a bigger situation than we realized. Henry's not just after the tip, he's asserting control. I overheard him on the phone earlier saying something about making an example of someone." Lucy's stomach twisted. "He's making an example of me." Martin's silence confirmed her worst fears. Finally, he said, "We'll protect you if we can. But corporate might fold. I just want you to be prepared." Lucy inhaled, quelling the panic within her. "I've already consulted a lawyer," she said quietly. "If corporate sides with Henry, I'm willing to go to battle. I won't let him get away with this." Martin laid a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens, you have my support. Just be careful." As the kitchen prepared Henry's order, Lucy tried to remain professional. She delivered the dish, a succulent duck confit, to Henry's table, accompanied by a tumbler of the restaurant's finest scotch. He seemed calm, barely glancing her way. For a while, Lucy believed he might just eat in peace and leave. But halfway through his meal, Henry snapped his fingers. Lucy approached cautiously. "Yes, Mr. Pemberton." He pointed to the dish. "Is this your idea of a proper meal?" "This duck is overcooked." Lucy blinked. She knew the chef well, and overcooking was near impossible under his watch. "I'm sorry, sir. I can have it replaced." Henry pushed the plate away. "Don't bother. I've lost my appetite." He took a sip of scotch, then set the glass down firmly. "What's more important is this fiasco we have about the tip. I told your management it was a mistake. If you persist in claiming it, I'll see to it that your career in this industry is finished." Lucy's cheeks flamed. The dining room was half full, and a few heads turned. She forced her voice to remain steady. "I'm only asking for what you wrote, sir. If that means you'll ruin my reputation, so be it. But I won't forfeit my earnings out of fear." Henry's eyes blazed. For a moment, Lucy thought he might strike her, or cause a bigger scene. But then he abruptly stood, flinging his napkin on the table. "We'll see," he growled. "We'll see how well you do without a job." He marched toward the exit. The staff froze. Patrons stared confused by the abrupt confrontation. Martin emerged from the back, trying to smooth things over. "Is everything all right, Mr. Pemberton?" he called. Henry waved him off. "Don't even try. I'll be speaking to corporate in the morning." In the aftermath, Lucy stood rooted to the spot, adrenaline roaring in her ears. Martin approached, eyes wide with concern. "Lucy, I'm sorry." The rest of the staff hovered, uncertain what to say. Carla gave Lucy a sympathetic pat on the arm. Marcus, the bartender, muttered curses under his breath about entitled millionaires. Soon enough, the dining room resumed its normal flow, though an uncomfortable hush enveloped Lucy like a suffocating blanket. When the last guest left and the tips were tallied, Lucy joined Martin in his office. He looked at her grimly. "Corporate is demanding a meeting tomorrow morning. They want you there along with me and one of their lawyers." Lucy's hand shook around the pen she used to sign out. "I'll be there," she said firmly. "But I want to bring my own lawyer as well." Martin hesitated, then nodded. "If you believe it's best, do it. I can't stop you." The next morning, Lucy arrived at the corporate headquarters of Le Palais Royal, a sleek glass building in downtown Boston. Dressed in her best blouse and slacks, she tried to exude confidence even as her stomach churned. Nancy Jenkins, her lawyer, accompanied her, carrying a briefcase of prepared documents. They were led to a polished conference room. Martin was already there, looking relieved to see Lucy. A couple of corporate executives sat at the table, including a stern-faced woman named Patricia Lee, who introduced herself as the company's legal representative. Another executive was on the phone, presumably dialed in from another location. Nancy and Lucy took seats opposite them. Immediately, Patricia began explaining the predicament. "Henry Pemberton is threatening to launch a smear campaign against our restaurant chain if we don't comply with his request to rescind the tip. He claims it was a clerical mistake and that Ms. Chang wrote in a larger amount after he signed." Lucy gasped in indignation. "That's a lie." Nancy placed a calming hand on Lucy's arm. She addressed Patricia calmly. "My client has the signed receipt, which clearly shows Mr. Pemberton's own handwriting for the tip. Furthermore, the restaurant's cameras would likely have caught him signing." One of the executives frowned. "We do have camera footage in the dining area, but Henry's lawyers are claiming privacy concerns regarding releasing it to the public. They want a behind-closed-doors resolution." Nancy's eyes narrowed. "Yet they have no problem threatening my client publicly." The tension in the room was palpable. Martin cleared his throat. "I stand by Lucy. She's been a model employee. I believe Henry wrote that tip willingly." Patricia Lee exhaled. "As a company, we face a dilemma. Lose a valuable client who accounts for thousands of dollars in revenue annually, or stand by an employee who might cost us that relationship. Regardless of who is right, the bottom line is that this is about business and reputation." Lucy felt tears sting her eyes. "So you'd just throw me to the wolves to keep Henry Pemberton happy?" Patricia shifted uncomfortably. I'm sorry, Lucy. Truly. But we have an entire chain of restaurants to consider. Nancy pulled out a letter from her briefcase. Here is a formal demand letter, stating that Henry Pemberton must cease and desist any attempts to reclaim the tip. Additionally, if he continues to libel Ms. Chang by accusing her of falsifying the tip, we are prepared to file suit for defamation. Patricia scanned the document, her face growing stiff. Are you sure this is the route you want to take? Ms. Chang. A legal battle could be long and messy, not to mention expensive. Lucy's jaw tightened. I won't be bullied. Silence stretched. Finally, one of the executives on the phone spoke up. All right, we'll pass this along to Henry's lawyers, but I can't promise a peaceful resolution. Martin rubbed his temple. What about Lucy's position at the restaurant? Patricia hesitated. Until this matter is resolved, Lucy is suspended from active duty with pay. We need to avoid further public incidents. Lucy's eyes burned. She was being punished essentially for defending her rights. But she held her head high. Fine. By that afternoon, the local news had caught wind of the dispute. A reporter from the Boston Chronicle called Lucy asking for comments about Henry Pemberton's alleged attempts to rescind a tip. Lucy politely declined to speak on Nancy's advice. But that night, a short segment ran on the local broadcast anyway, outlining rumors of a waitstaff dispute with a powerful millionaire. They didn't mention Lucy by name, but enough details were shared that people who knew her could connect the dots. Messages flooded Lucy's phone, some from supportive friends, others from random numbers, telling her she was crazy to fight Henry Pemberton. Even an old high school acquaintance texted out of the blue, asking if Lucy would appear on a talk show to share her story. On day 3 of her suspension, Lucy scrolled through social media and found at Tipgate trending locally. An anonymous source had leaked the details of Henry's fiasco at the Grand Sterling, fueling the public's outrage. People were calling him a tip tyrant, accusing him of exploiting the service industry. On the 4th day, Lucy woke up to find her phone buzzing. It was Carla from Le Palais Royal. Lucy Martin just gave an interview to the Boston Globe defending you. He said he's fed up with corporate putting profits over employees. He even threatened to resign if they don't reinstate you and finalize your tip. Lucy's heart soared at the news. She immediately searched online. Sure enough, there was an article in the Globe titled "Manager at High-End Restaurant Stands by Suspended Waitress in Tip Dispute." Martin was quoted, "Lucy Chang is one of our best employees. She provides impeccable service, and this is a clear case of intimidation by a wealthy patron. Our staff should never be sacrificed for the comfort of the powerful." Tears welled in Lucy's eyes. Martin's bold stance gave her renewed courage. She texted him a heartfelt thank you. He replied swiftly, "Hang in there." That evening, Henry Pemberton released a public statement through his PR team. He claimed the entire incident was a misunderstanding, blown out of proportion by certain media outlets. He asserted that the waitress had possibly made an innocent error in transcribing the tip. Not quite an outright accusation of fraud, but enough of a hint to sow doubt. However, the public sentiment was turning against him. Social media erupted with condemnation. People shared their own horror stories of dealing with Henry's real estate developments. The protest group fighting his new project leveraged the tip scandal as further proof of his unethical behavior. Even Natalia chimed in on her personal Instagram, posting a cryptic photo of a restaurant receipt with the caption, "Some people tip big, then try to take it back. Stand with servers." Lucy watched it unfold in a mixture of awe and trepidation. On one hand, seeing Henry squirm under public scrutiny was oddly validating. On the other, Lucy worried about her own safety and the final outcome of this fiasco. She had a few sleepless nights imagining the worst-case scenario, corporate firing her, Henry suing her, or her name getting dragged through the mud indefinitely. A week into Lucy's suspension, she got an unexpected call from Martin. "I've just come from a meeting with the owners," he said, sounding agitated yet triumphant. "They've decided to settle this in your favor. They can't ignore the massive support you're getting online, plus the staff's unity. And they're furious at Henry for bringing negative attention to the restaurant." Lucy's breath caught. "So what does that mean?" "They're letting you keep the tip," Martin said. "They want you back at work tomorrow. Officially, your record is clean. They're even considering a formal apology to you. But there's a catch: Henry might retaliate." Lucy felt a combination of relief and dread. He might ban me from working anywhere in his developments, or something along those lines. Martin sighed. He's threatened to pull future business from Le Palais Royal, but the owners are cutting their losses. He's not worth the negative publicity. That said, be cautious. Henry is powerful and vindictive. At least from the restaurant's perspective, you're vindicated. The next morning, Lucy stepped into Le Palais Royal with her head high. Staff members greeted her with warm smiles, handshakes, and even a few hugs. Carla practically squealed, "Our heroine is back. We missed you so much." Marcus behind the bar gave her a thumbs up and a free latte from the espresso machine. The solidarity was overwhelming, and Lucy fought back tears of gratitude. Martin found Lucy in the staff lounge before opening. "I wanted you to hear it from me first," he said, handing her an envelope. "The owners decided to give you a formal letter of reinstatement and a small bonus for the trouble. I know it doesn't erase the stress you've gone through, but it's something." Lucy opened the envelope. It contained a typed statement officially clearing her of any wrongdoing, reaffirming her position, plus a check for $2,000, representing both the tip and an additional amount labeled as a service excellence bonus. Lucy's throat constricted with emotion. "Thank you, Martin, for standing up for me," she whispered. He nodded. "Always. Now let's serve some fantastic meals." An hour before closing on Lucy's first night back, the doors opened, and in strode Henry Pemberton, flanked by two stern-looking men. A hush fell over the dining room. Lucy's heart thundered in her chest, but she stood firm, prepared for whatever confrontation he had come to start. Martin approached Henry before he could even request a table. "Mr. Pemberton, I'm afraid our dining room is closing soon." Henry ignored him. Eyes locked on Lucy. He strode over, stopping just a foot away from her. "I see you got what you wanted," he said, voice low and charged. Lucy refused to waver. "I got what was rightfully mine." Henry's lips thinned. "You and your media circus nearly destroyed my reputation. For a mere $1,000, I hope you're satisfied." Lucy's knees trembled, but she squared her shoulders. "This was never just about the money, Mr. Pemberton. It's about standing up for dignity. You can't buy and bully your way through everything." Henry's associates stepped forward, but Martin intervened. "Gentlemen, I must ask you to leave, or I'll have to call security." Henry glared at Martin, then at Lucy, and for a moment Lucy thought he might lash out. Instead, a twisted smile crept across his face. "Actually, I've come to settle this once and for all." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a checkbook. To Lucy's astonishment, He scribbled something, ripped the check free, and handed it to her. "Here's double the amount. Now do you feel vindicated?" Lucy stared at the check, her mind reeling. Martin leaned over, eyes widening. It was for 2,000 made out to Lucy Chang. "What's this for?" she managed. Henry shrugged, his voice dripping with disdain. "Consider it an olive branch, or hush money, whatever you prefer. I'm done letting this story control the narrative. Spend it, donate it, do what you want. But know that if you keep dragging my name through the mud, I'll ruin you." Lucy felt outrage surge. She ripped the check in half before his eyes. "I'm not for sale," she said, her voice clear and unwavering. For a beat, Henry stood there, stunned. Then his face reddened. One of his associates put a hand on his arm, urging him to leave. "Come on, Henry. Let's go." Henry pivoted on his heel. As he stormed out, he hurled one last threat over his shoulder. "You'll regret this." Silence enveloped the restaurant. The staff and remaining patrons watched in astonishment. Suddenly Martin cleared his throat, stepping into the center of the room. He placed a comforting hand on Lucy's shoulder. Then in a firm, resolute voice, he declared, "We here at Le Palais Royal stand by our employees. No amount of money can buy our integrity. This is a place of dignity, of respect for guests and for staff alike. If Mr. Pemberton or anyone else attempts to undermine that, they will learn that our loyalty is not for sale. Our doors remain open to all who treat us with respect. Otherwise, you're not welcome here." A wave of applause erupted from the dining room. Lucy felt tears stinging her eyes. The atmosphere crackled with shared triumph. For once the powerful were held accountable, if only in this small corner of the world. After Henry's dramatic exit, the staff reconvened in the lounge. Martin repeated his words in a quieter tone. "I meant what I said out there. Enough is enough." Carla and the others cheered, hugging Lucy. Even some lingering customers stopped by to congratulate her on standing her ground. Over the following days, news outlets picked up the story of the final confrontation. Henry Pemberton's image was tarnished further. Meanwhile, Lucy Chang became a symbol, albeit reluctantly, of a worker who refused to be bullied by wealth and power. Nancy Jenkins kept in touch, congratulating Lucy on what she called a moral victory. She assured Lucy that if Henry tried any further legal intimidation, they'd be ready. But it seemed Henry had withdrawn from the public eye, at least for the moment. Perhaps Lucy mused he'd found a new target, or discovered that the blowback wasn't worth the trouble. Back on the floor at Le Palais Royal, Lucy found a renewed sense of purpose. Customers recognized her from the news stories. Many gave her extra-large tips or words of encouragement. Some even brought small gifts like flowers or thank you cards to show solidarity. She never let the attention go to her head, though. Lucy remained the same dedicated, thoughtful server she'd always been. She continued her classes in hospitality management, inspired to eventually manage or own a restaurant where staff would be treated fairly, one that could stand up to even the toughest of millionaires. Amanda. Her younger sister watched everything unfold with awe. "You're my hero," she said one evening, tears shimmering in her eyes. Lucy felt a surge of gratitude. The hardships she faced had turned into a lesson for Amanda, that it's possible to stand up for yourself, even against daunting odds. Looking back, Lucy realized that the tip scandal was never just about $1,000. It was about the dignity of workers everywhere, those who rely on tips to make ends meet, who deal with self-important customers daily, and who rarely get recognized for their dedication. Henry Pemberton might have moved on, but the ripples of the confrontation remained. The restaurant's owners started to overhaul policies to protect staff from similar incidents in the future. They updated their official handbook, emphasizing that once a signed tip is recorded, it belongs to the employee, no exceptions. Martin took a step further, encouraging staff to report any harassment, immediately promising the management's full support. That night, as Lucy closed the restaurant with Carla by her side, she glanced at the empty dining area where it all began. "We made it?" she whispered, smiling softly. Carla grinned. "You bet we did." In Lucy's heart, she carried the knowledge that while not every server could stand up for themselves, so publicly her story might empower someone else to do the same. And that, in the end, felt like the most significant tip of all. Lucy Chang's journey from an unassuming server to a resolute voice against injustice shows us how one person's courage can shift an entire power dynamic. Her confrontation with a powerful millionaire wasn't just about a disputed tip. It was a stand for every service worker who deserves respect and fair treatment. Through unwavering determination, Lucy transformed a moment of intimidation into a rallying cry for dignity in the workplace. If you found inspiration in Lucy's battle against wealth and influence, we encourage you to take a stand in your own life, whether it's for yourself or for someone you know who needs a champion. Share this story with friends to spark discussions about workers' rights, respect, and the value of integrity. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss more uplifting and empowering real-life stories, just like this one. Thank you for watching.